best because they meant something to me. They already meant something before they appeared. Yeah, it meant something.
Initially I got this little device that detected electrical current flow in things, and I was using it to detect cables behind walls and under carpets and things.
I have two worlds, if you like. I have my crop circle world and I have my orthodox world, and sometimes they are on a collision course.
So, for one reason or another, this little patch of the world has had many crop formations.
I've no idea who made this. Doesn't mean to say that it wasn't made by humans, but I simply don't know.
What we now have is a large hoaxing problem that is put on one side.
I know nearly everything that is out there. How it appeared, who or what may have made it, including the ones that nobody knows, but how do you know that? How do we?
We know from the work of subtle energy science that human mind can affect physical reality, and it's called the conditioned space.
Some people believe crop circles are evidence of a non-human intelligence trying to give us a message that is somehow very important to modern people. Very many others think we are just dealing with a form of man-made art, created in order to deceive other people. It is typical that crop circles among crop circle researchers and enthusiasts are divided strictly into two groups, the hoaxes and the genuine ones. The hoaxes are man-made crop circles that are not interesting because there is nothing mysterious about them, while the genuine crop circles are interesting because there are some paranormal activity associated with them, and they seem to point to an origin that is non-human. During this documentary, you will see that all crop circles are genuine. They are genuine works of art, sometimes very beautiful and complicated, even if they possibly are man-made. But also genuine in the sense that they are giving genuine paranormal, spiritual, even healing experiences to people visiting them, people researching them, and people making them.
And my mother's an artist, and she'd collected a whole load of corn from the fields, and she was drying it out to make little arrangements and corn dolly type shapes out of them. And I jokingly went along touching the probe on some of these, and I was getting different readings on them.
If you look at this formation, it is so accurately placed in the field that if that went a little bit clockwise there, it would run into the tumulus, and if it went anti-clockwise, that part would run into the tumulus. It's quite remarkably accurately positioned.
And I said, oh, we'll do it again. So I went out and she did it again, and this went on 5 or 6 different times. And she was getting more and more excited, and I said, well, what is it? What is it? You know, tell me what I'm detecting here.
This year, we made an agreement amongst circle makers that we were going to be a little bit more secretive because too much was leaking out about which teams were doing which things.
The more simple the design, the more likely is my belief you're looking at a non-man interference in the phenomenon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Ogborn St George, the very big one that came in early in June.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice formation. I managed to access that on the first day that it was reported, and I was very impressed. There was no evidence anywhere of hoaxing at all. It gives you the feel-good factor for the rest of the season.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 sixes are 72. So that makes a diameter of approximately 720 feet.
It's brought people together from all over the world.
It's brought me together.
Yeah, it's brought people from all over the world to look at it because they're fascinated by it. And we know in our DNA we're carrying a coding that's gone back thousands and thousands of years. And perhaps the circles have triggered off something in our subconscious mind. When they see these symbols, it's triggered something off, which makes everybody then start questioning what life is all about. A lot of people have come to the same conclusion that I have, but the last 2 to 3 years they have not been happy with the circles, and it's not just me thinking this. I've bumped into people I've known for years that's written books.
Circle maker teams are not interested in gathering evidence of themselves doing circles. Up until recently, I suppose you could say good quality cameras that work at night, haven't been available, and the people to operate them and understand them and can pull them out bang and be there. They haven't wanted to have an extra person who's permanently there filming and documenting, because then they're not part of the team.
If they were man-made from the beginning, with the advanced methods and the experience of the people that are making the crop circles should become more complex and more ingenious all the time, which they are not doing.
It takes a few years for some teams to get to do enough formations and then get the experience, little things, and it's, I mean, a team could then go out with a really experienced team and they'll go, no, don't do it like that, this, throw those tools away, use this. Hold that rope tighter, do this, blah blah blah, and then suddenly you've got a really good team. We kind of like going, could this be a genuine formation? And then the team comes out and we kind of realise who they are, and it's like bang, 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 high standard, come out of nowhere.
It was a crop circle in Torsmead Copse near West Towel, and it had 175 small circles inside and outside a very large kind of a ring shape that was flattened. The ring shape by itself would have been very hard work to do, but it was especially these little circles that impressed me, because each of them that I examined had a different kind of swirl, how the crop was swirled and bent against the ground. And there were this kind of strange nests and baskets and different kind of spirals and the way the stems radiated out of the center was very unique in each of the small circles. In the main part, in the large ring, the crop was not laid flat against the ground, but instead it was very airy, and I was among the first people to enter this formation in the morning. And when we stepped on the soft crop, we left footprints when the crop was pressed against the ground. And this crop circle was definitely formed overnight, because it was in a location that was clearly visible from the nearby hills, and there were people there on the previous day and evening. And also it was noticed the first thing at dawn.
And being female, which is yin, I need a yang point to balance me up and vice versa. And I was dicing and I found this yang spot, and I sat myself down and I felt absolutely wonderful. And as I was sitting there feeling wonderful, I suddenly realized that I had a ripple of energy going through my shoulders. And I thought, well, that's strange. Is it really happening? Yes, it was. So I thought, well, I'll just see what's happening to my damaged shoulder. So I twiddled it very gently, and it didn't hurt. So I twiddled it more, and it was completely healed. Couldn't believe it.
These several people, without knowing about each other, reported seeing strange lights above this this particular field where this crop circle was found the next morning, and these lights were described as small, colorful lights that were rapidly moving in some kind of pattern. I heard from other people that had difficulties shooting photographs in the crop circle, but I personally experienced this when I was trying to take a photo of a young couple with their camera, and the camera simply refused to shoot, although it completely was working before we entered the crop circle.
You'll actually see that it will give a digital readout of the frequency. It's basically a higher vibration by generally 2, sometimes 3 times the amount that's outside the crop circle.
That's a lot.
So it is quite, it's, I'm looking for anomalies in the order of 200 to 400%, rather than just a fluctuation.
One of the aspects is definitely a healing effect, but there's a whole gambit of other effects ranging really from intense nausea through from headaches, ringing in the ears, tremendous thirst, diarrhea, sudden hunger, all manner of effects, as well as beneficial effects.
It's the actual frequency that you're picking up. It's the background frequency is a higher frequency. Now, whether or not this is interacting with people, which is making them feel elated or excited, or interacting on some conscious level. But on the whole, I've found, doing sort of research over the years, that it's generally within the perimeter of the actual crop circle.
The whole thing.
We'll get readings. But we've actually found that, which I found firstly with Freddie Silver when we were doing the sort of parallels with the dowsing experiments, that we can actually, there's actually dowsable rings that actually extend outside the crop circle.
There's energy rings.
There's like energy
outside.
rings that will go out perhaps 200 foot, but get weaker and weaker. Almost like if you throw a pebble into a pond, you'll get ripples going out.
And it was this man who looked down from his aircraft and saw the size of Stonehenge and the surrounding ring, the earthwork around it, that thought that what he was looking at equated to the dimensions of the circles we were seeing, remembering they were relatively simple. And that was that particular winter, wasn't it? Yeah. I went back through all of our dimensions, precise dimensions, and we measured everything in quarters, so it was literally every circle was measured by quarter diameters, radiuses, to the base of the plant, so it was always accurate to literally the growing stem. You're looking at centimeters of difference between all of those, that first range of circles, and those that we began to feel were being hoaxed, that looked wrong to us, that had damage and so on, that literally were different ratios, did not fit the Stonehenge ground design.
Well, the odd thing was that on the first one I ever found, it was a Celtic symbol, and I had this compulsion to go to the museums in London and Salisbury and photograph all the symbols. And from 85 to 90, all the symbols I'd photographed appeared in the fields over those years. Everything I'd photographed individually, they turned up. When we sort of made that silly comment on the plane that morning.
That's right.
I said, all we need is last year's and this year's put together column. He said, yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it?
It was a casual comment to me, and I'm here to confirm that he certainly said it, as we were sat in that aircraft, and it was 24 hours after, not just anywhere, but under the aircraft where he said it, was just exactly what he had basically commented on, was everything we had seen in those many previous period, all overlaid. It was a non-traditional Celtic cross with an inner ring and satellites and a central circle right below where the aircraft was 24 hours before. And I mean, you're interviewing two of the guys that I certainly didn't make it. He didn't certainly make it. What did?
And all the man-made formations that I've studied locally, inevitably there's some linked series of causal events where someone saw something or said something to someone or sent a letter to. But you can almost follow anything that happens in this reality has cause and effect. There's a sequential ordering to events, even in the way that the crop is in a man-made formation has an ordering. This goes first, this comes after, this goes. The other formations which are genuinely mysterious, it's not nearly as easy to work out which bit came first, which bit came after, especially with that formation over there. To draw it geometrically was totally at odds to actually how you found it in the field. What should be on top was underneath. All those sorts of logical orderings were different, where it definitely give me the impression of it having come down quite simultaneously, and maybe one arc beginning at the same time as another, so by the time they hit, whereas if it was done piece by piece, that one would all be under, that one would all be on top, but instead we're finding this sort of interweaving.
Very quickly, I would say over a couple of minutes, the rain just like died down, and I realised it was still raining in other parts of the field. You could see it. It was a rain cloud around an area of the crop circle, and then I kind of drew other people's attention to this. I said, it's not raining on us, but it is raining out there. And looking up, there was an opening in the cloud, which then elongated into an oval above us, and it stayed there for an hour and a half.
And as the evening wore on, it pushed lots of clouds across. Firstly, the odd cloud, and then it all started to build up. We saw the usual things that you see at night, perhaps the odd light going across the sky, aircraft, the odd satellite, and after midnight the clouds began to close together. The next thing we know, somebody shouts out, "Look at that, it's here!" And we all looked over towards the northeast, and what could only be described, it wasn't a beam of light, not as it finished up in the final outcome, it was a column of light. It came through the clouds, but when it passed through the clouds, it illuminated a ring in the clouds. I suppose the whole thing lasted only for between 10 and 15 seconds. But this beam of light, or column of light I should say, sort of collapsed on itself. It didn't switch off. It remained as a column of light as it sort of came down to wherever it came down to. The only crop circle that arrived that morning, or was reported that morning, was about half a mile behind the pub at the bottom of Hackpen Hill. But I had a chance to talk to the farmer, and he said they had a commotion in the farmyard from the animals, or some of the animals, at around about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
For the longest time, I didn't think humans could actually make it. I thought it was impossible to do because of the darkness. I'd spent time out at night in crop circles. I didn't think humans could make it. I'd always heard reports about this, but no one had ever been caught, and it looked to me like it was impossible. But eventually, we encountered some human circle makers, and they offered to show us demonstrations in the daytime and eventually at night.
Right, well, I first came down to Wiltshire in about 91, 92. I think it was 92 I started making small circles, just little things, a couple of feet wide.
They found the book, and throughout the summer, they created every single pattern on this page. All of them on this one page were found in fields. But again, we went into this particular formation and we used a static electricity meter to measure static, and it was alternating negative, positive with every step. I've never been in a formation that did that. So I believe that the human circle makers are creating a very advanced form of technology that can create alternating fields of electricity, which I mean, I don't know how to do that. But they found intuitively, or from the book, somehow They intuit the correct patterns to do in the fields, the ones that'll make something happen.
Known man-made crop circles typically seem to be quite complex in terms of the number of geometrical elements. There might be even hundreds of circles or areas defined by straight lines, which make them look very complex in the beginning. But when you study this type of geometry, you soon find out that there's nothing mysterious about it. You just have like a circle and some other circles positioned on the edge of this first circle, and then other circles positioned on the crossing points of the previous circles, and then you have straight lines running from the points to another. And when you have enough of these elements, you get a complex looking geometry that geometrically anyhow is very simple.
But there are a lot of circle makers that people don't know. I mean, I put the figure on in a season about 24 people that I knew were working in Wiltshire at one time.
It isn't so much that, oh, this lousy one is the man-made one and this other one is made by ETs. The very best circle makers are unknown to the public. You won't hear about them, they don't have a website. They're not public. It's very hard to see people in the dark. When you're out there at night, your eyes take about half an hour to adjust. When you first get there, you can't see anything. A researcher pulled up to the formation I was observing in Charles. I didn't make it, but I was observing it. It was not a legal formation, but I wanted to see if these people could do it. And they didn't see us, and they were looking for hoaxers. You hear the car coming up a long ways away, and I think that I just don't think it's easy to catch people in the field at night. It's very dark.
Say it would take one person 3 days. Well, it might take, 15 people a few hours.
Yeah.
Or 30 people 1 hour.
As I've said at the column before, it's as though we're all under a test. We're being tested to see how far we're going to go before we suddenly think, well, hang on a minute. Why are we doing this to each other? Why don't we just sit down and sort our differences out in any which way you can think? Get the minds working all together and then go forward.
In the early days, we weren't trying to deceive researchers. We were simply asking questions for ourselves, and we were trying to observe the reactions of researchers. Really, if we'd been kind of deceiving the researchers, we would have been kind of coming forward and saying that we were making the circles, and we couldn't do that because it was illegal. So, we couldn't come forward and say, ha, we know this is man-made. We felt very safe because we were well known as the circle hoaxbusters, and we didn't have a problem with this because we thought, well, as an experiment, nobody would think that it was us.
Most of the people, the croppies, the researchers, more or less hate you for what you do, or maybe they think you don't do it and you are just a liar. Well, it makes your life a bit miserable here, doesn't it?
Well, it did. When we were exposed for making circles in our local group of friends, we were trying to tell people, why we'd done it, and some people came on board, and it spawned a number of different teams that kind of carried on the same principles to which we started out doing the circles. That we do this oration, and we look at it as a spiritual endeavour, and we don't take it as being fooling people. We take it as being we're part of something magical that works for people, and we're getting guidance from somewhere. Paul, my friend who we were making the circle with, he said, if there's anyone there now, can we have a sign? And there was a flash in the sky. I said, well, that could just be coincidence, that could just be something else. And he said, well, let's just wait for a while then, let's not do anything. And he said, okay, so we were just silent for a couple of minutes. And I said, well, go on then, do it again. He said, well, if there's anybody up there, can we have a sign, please? And we had another flash in the sky.
We did an experimental formation this year over at Yatesbury. I think, unfortunately, the farmer harvested it 3 days later. Well, we found bent nodes and nodes that were swollen and bent, and that was our formation that we made. It's the sun heating the plants. They're bent over in a different position, and there's something called heat shock proteins. They're very strong proteins that are designed to allow the plant to survive stress, and they will create deformities and all sorts of changes in the plants. We had heard for a long time that a litmus test of a so-called authentic formation was finding bloom on the plants. In fact, we just heard someone present that here at the conference a few minutes ago. But what we found was that the bloom grows back every night. It grows during the night, especially on damp nights, And in our own formation, when we had inspected by a very prominent researcher who was here, she went in with her inspection equipment and got down on the ground, and she said, I don't understand how you did this without disturbing the bloom. So we need to have a little more rigorous approach if we want to determine what are the signs of a real formation. To me, that is battery failure, camera failure, pulse blight. Those I don't think any human can reproduce.
Other people were telling us where the ley lines were. We weren't going out and dowsing these things, which some people have asked us, did we dowse where to put the circle? We never dowsed. We were kind of told there's a ley line that goes there, and we would kind of go, okay, and we would walk into a field, and people would say, that this is exactly the right place, that the centre is bang on a very important point, or was on top of an ancient land feature, or something like this, or ancient ruins underneath. And we'd find that we'd see people actually meditating in the middle of the circle, but we could actually get them meditating on other parts of the circle by changing the design, that we could create new focal points.
Yes.
And it was done by total beginners. They had never done this before in their life, and yet within 10 minutes they were expert stompers. I think the inside looks really good. Has a swept feeling. Now they're children, so they're not going to push it down as hard as an adult, but it left it standing a little bit, kind of left it a kind of a textured feeling. It was with wheat, very beautiful looking, and that was done by kids.
This is living crop. By the time of lunchtime, it's strong.
Yeah, it's standing up.
It's
anyway,
strong,
and
it wants to go back to the light.
Yeah, I see
so,
that point.
you can actually, we've repaired whole areas of crop circle that we flattened by mistake, and we've gone, oh my God, but we don't lose the circle for that. We just say, right then, guys, you go over there and you lift that back up.
In 2000, there was this crop circle that very apparently was man-made that I visited in Cherhill. It was what was known as the 11-pointed star, and was considered rather important in the beginning because it was apparently the first 11-folded geometry that had appeared.
Cheryl Formation 2000. I was given the plan the night before, and then they did it. It looked a lot neater than our brown barley. But it was done by people with three boards, did that in about 5 hours.
It looked rather complex. It was actually very simple, with just the circle divided in 11 parts, and then each of these 11 points connected with a straight line to every other point, and then with this crisscross pattern, just some portions flattened and others left standing. A very typical way of making a crop circle. Maybe it is a certain group that has made several of this type of crop circles.
They're mathematically minded people, let me put it that way, or they're oriented towards geometry. Now, I don't sit around and create shapes in my mind to do in fields, but I know some of these people now, and they just seem to be very good at, each of us is very good at something. These people somehow inherited or developed the ability to be able to imagine patterns in fields, from a paper to a large size. And they're very good at figuring out how to do it. And that's the one thing I found in common. They can visualize in their mind a pattern. They can sketch it on a page or use AutoCAD on a computer. And then they can imagine a technique for creating that in a field without leaving too many lines.
But what was extraordinary was that there was an exceptional energy anomaly in the crop circle that was measured by some people with technical devices. I had these dowsing rods, which I sometimes use in a crop circle out of curiosity, although I don't necessarily understand how they work. And soon after they started turning, I started feeling this tingling sensation in my hand, like little needles pinching it from below. And so I thought, wow, I'm feeling it with my bare hand, so I don't need the dowsing rod. So I put the dowsing rods away and started feeling with my hands. And when it reached my elbow, and it was an intense pain in the elbow, and I thought that it is going to continue through my arm and reach my chest and my neck and head. So I thought this is the time I have to escape and go out of the crop circle, which I did.
Now some crops of wheat are very easy to work with and they have that smooth textured feeling. I think it's mainly due to two factors, basically. The skill of the circle making people involved and the quality of the crop. And you're going to have a lot of variation. If you get beginners in, tough crop, it's not going to look that great. But what causes the damage is people walking in the crop later. Walking, and it pushes the seed in and makes it unharvestable. Matthew Williams was caught and he was fined, I believe, 150 pounds or so. It's what we would call a petty offense. So it is a minor criminal activity, and I think it's better to pay the farmer and to get permission first. The circle makers feel that the farmers are not always willing to let them make circles, and they've tried to pay them, and sometimes they just feel it's easier just to go in and choose their own field.
There were stories that it used to cost thousands of pounds for some of these circles, and farmers would go on television saying things like, oh, this is thousands of pounds worth of damage, and we don't know what we're going to do, and it was very sensationalised, that this was a terrible thing. And I've come to learn now that a lot of the circles we've done, between 20, 30 pounds worth of crop, and some of the biggest circles we've done, probably about 100 pounds.
After some years, it might be possible that also people could use crop circles in communicating with these beings.
I think in the future we'll see these people as pioneers. Just like the Wright brothers were considered a hoax for a couple of years after they had flown by Scientific American magazine, the leading scientific magazine in the United States.
This year, 2003, when I was gathering material for this documentary in Wiltshire, England, after I had been flying with the microlight and to shoot aerial footage of the crop circles, we were driving the car, coming back, going to my camping site from the airfield. I closed my eyes in the car and I had a vision that I was totally unprepared for. It didn't come out of a meditation or anything. I didn't see it clearly, but I clearly saw that the shape, the essential part of it was these very thin crescents like a new moon. And when I came to the camping site, I made a sketch of this shape on a paper. While I was doing the sketch, then I closed my eyes and kind of meditated to receive something else and to get it more precise, the shape. I didn't manage to do that, but instead another shape came to me, and which was kind of a classical shape with three circles connected with straight lines, which has actually appeared as a crop circle. When we were driving with Matthew, he showed me, without me asking it, a diagram of a crop circle he just made for BBC Channel. And funny enough, this design had as its one of its main elements these thin crescent shapes. And I noticed that Matthew had on his T-shirt the CSETI logo, which is the three circles connected with the lines.
I don't think that I'm anything special, I'm just a normal person. I've got no real abilities to conjure up things and cause magic. I don't believe I can do that. All the people we work with, they say the same thing. We can't do these strange things. And sometimes, we've been in a rush and we've had to do bits. And we've looked at the formation in the morning and we've gone, wow, how did we do that? Because this was rough, we did this rough, but now it appears very smooth.
Exactly.
And kind of like we said, well, maybe something's come along afterwards and done this, maybe something's cleaned it up.
Amazing.
We have, as you know, on record, on film footage, these very small spheres, orbs, as they be called.
I've seen them.
Those are clearly something extremely unusual. Inside or outside of the crop circle mystery, those orbs, those Avebury lights, exist just up the road here. This is where most of them are filmed. So what are they? Well, you can ask on the record or off the record people that are involved in intelligence gathering in this country and abroad, and they will tell you that they have absolutely no idea what they are, but they're seen picked up on their satellites. They are seen in space. These small things, they tend to come in and out of larger objects that come into our atmosphere. And I think then you know when you look at that, and if you accept that as a fact, then it does raise a flag which says, well, if it's not human, then is it extraterrestrial?
Balls of light came in on 3 corners, about football size.
Yeah.
Maybe that sort of size.
Yeah.
I've seen these on a number of occasions.
And came in and chased you out?
Effectively, 3 lights came on 3 corners of the field.
Yes.
We immediately thought it was farmers.
Yes.
Our reaction was to immediately bunch together, you know, low down.
When I have been researching also parapsychology, I have realized that many psychic people who see not only aliens but also beings of spiritual world, sometimes they see those spirits as light balls, not only outside but also in the rooms. And in many UFO cases, especially in UFO contact cases, quite often the contact has started when the person has seen light balls.
Now we're all talking about the strange things that happened. It was a very, similar to what it was early this morning, very overcast day. And we're talking in the kitchen. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this brilliant light emanated in the room like somebody had a flash gun. Within the room. And now we're all looking at one another. Who's got a flash gun? And everybody's got the same expression on the face. What was that? Yeah. People outside, I immediately went outside and said, did you see a flash? And they said, no, we never saw anything. But in that room it lit up just like a normal flash gun. Where it came from, no idea.
And I was just driving south back to my home, and I just got past near where the barge is, a place called Honey Street, and I saw this white light coming down the road, and I naturally assumed it's a car coming the other way, and because they're quite narrow lanes around there, I sort of slowed down and thought, well, obviously this guy's coming quite fast. And it got brighter and brighter, so I actually sort of pulled into like a little lay-by, so I'd actually stopped the car, and then this light came around the corner, and I thought it was a motorbike. It was literally headlight size, 18 inches or so above the ground, and I thought, well, I'll park and let the thing go past. It was probably doing 50, 60 miles an hour or so, and then suddenly, instead of going past, it suddenly literally shot up over the bonnet and disappeared into the clouds, and this was 6 foot away. Well, it was almost, subsequently I've seen bits of footage of these little balls of light in crop circles. It was almost like that. It's literally like a football, but glowing. As it shot up, you could see the light sort of coming out of the back of it. So rather than the torch, it was just literally a ball of light.
The Tully circle in the marshes. The farmer there witnessed a UFO coming up out of the marsh and staggering like it was full of water, and it couldn't get its level, and it staggered away. And he had a look where it came from, and that's when he found what they call the Tully nests in the reeds, where the reeds are all flattened out. So we've had this connection with water, with crop circles. We've got this connection with UFOs staggering out of that. We've got this mark in our fields similar to the Tully, and I've always said I believe it's an aerial component of some kind. What we've never had over the years is the fact we've had a UFO lifting from crop circle. That's the only bit that's missing.
I don't think there's any evidence at all that they are making them up outside of the Oliver's Castle footage, which is a separate issue. There is no evidence that I know of that these things are making them. There's a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
The fact that they are showing an interest in them, because they don't, if they are in the field where a crop circle exists, they don't bypass that formation. They go in and appear to look at it.
One possibility is that in the future people learn to create a link between a computer and our brain, so that our consciousness or our personality and our memories can be transferred into the memory of the computer. If you imagine that a kind of a computer information would be transferred into a packet of ionized gas, you wouldn't need the computer on the other end anymore. Instead, you could send this person, this consciousness, to any place where there just is some atmosphere in light speed, and then this person would exist as a plasma ball, which might be seen to an outside observer as a ball of radiant light that radiates light, because there's lots of energy in this charged packet of plasma.
And I'm at Windmill Hill in a circle again at night, 12:30. And I'm inspecting the formation, which I thought might have been made by people, but I didn't really care. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was to be there in nature, reconnected. There's a slight breeze, and I did my meditation standing up to disconnect. Now, as soon as I disconnected ego and personality and got to awareness, this force rushed up my spine and burst through my head. Later, somebody described it must be the Kundalini.
Sure, it's Kundalini.
An absolutely fabulous experience. I just loved it. And I was reduced to tears. It was overwhelming. And so I'm in a kind of a pure state of mind, and I come out of that circle to the center of a bigger circle, and my friend comes out from where he was at the same time. We are speechless. We both have had transcendent experience in this crop circle.
Because we all heard a noise,
Yeah.
electrostatic
Every one of
noise.
us. Every one
And,
of us.
and we're all saying, what's that? And I had my camera on a pole with my back to the sun. And right dead center of the circle, we got this like miniature disc,
Yeah.
about 9 inches by 3.
Just off the centre, isn't it?
And it's just sitting there, but we didn't see anything.
No, we didn't. And
The
you were
cam-
looking at it.
And
Remember that?
yeah, and the camera picked it up.
Yeah.
We're standing there, not talking, maybe this far apart, looking down toward Avebury, and this light appears. Big light, very intense. It cast shadows. I noticed the shadows, but it didn't hurt my eyes. If somebody make a photonic flash, you know, it would hurt your eyes. But this didn't hurt my eyes. It went right into me like a blessing. And the voice in my head, same in my friend's head, said, "Howdy, boys. Glad you're here."
It's cowboy language.
Yeah, we're both from the Midwest.
Okay.
I had something out of the ordinary in the video material that I wasn't expecting. Several times there seems to be a glowing sphere of a sort that flies through the field of vision of the camera very slowly at a steady speed. I simply cannot tell what it is, and I leave it to you to decide. Maybe somebody recognizes it as some kind of a technical artifact of that is produced by a reflection of the sunlight, maybe from the wing of the airplane or something like that.
When we talk about light bulbs, it's very essential part of parapsychology and part of ufology, but behind it there might be aliens, or there might be natural phenomena which has been investigated so little that official science doesn't accept them.
This is a more complicated design to do.
Yeah, although it looks very simple for most people because there's not much elements, it's not big, so it's rather
But it moves
simple.
at an angle into the field.
Yeah.
And this, as circle making, is an advanced element.
Incredible.
Well, this is like the church 500 years ago telling us that you need a priest to be absolved of your sins. You can't do it directly. And then we had a Protestant Reformation, and we had people with different ideas, so you could go directly to God. You didn't need the priest. This is the same sort of idea. It's like a religious war going on. It doesn't have to be a war, but yes, I believe there is another intelligence. I believe in extraterrestrials, and I believe in spirits and other dimensional things that work through us, and they need an avenue to come through, and the crop circle is what lets them do it.
And perhaps even if the crop circle was made by people, the people may have been used as a tool by the higher forces to create this certain kind of pattern in order to have a certain effect to some other people, even if the people who made the crop circle didn't know why they were inspired to make this particular shape.
She spontaneously saw this shape appear in her mind, and then a couple weeks later it appeared in the field. And she is not a circle maker, but somehow they had the same thing she thought. And to me that suggests that there's a larger intelligence at work that we need to investigate, a higher intelligence that everyone's connected to. And that's why even the man-made circles are mysterious. It doesn't explain how all that telepathy is possible. And the fact that people are involved, to me, makes it much more interesting because I'm a remote viewing instructor. I deal with telepathy every day when I teach people. And now I see evidence of it happening in crop circles.
We went into the field and we made a formation in front of these people. And we could see them all night long. And this was great, and we left the formation, we were like, wow, we managed to do this in front of them. But I wanted to know what they saw. Did they see us? And I was like, what is it? Was it people, or was it what would happen? And they reported a fog bank coming down over the field, just in that area, covering up the crop so they couldn't see. Now we couldn't see this, we could see them clearly. There was no fog bank came down over us. But they said this fog bank descended, and in the morning it raised up, and there was the formation.
And again, all through history, symbolisms had an important influence on people, whether it's the occult or black magic or Christianity and the church and all these different symbolisms. And people see importance in the mandalas and the shapes, and they have that certain form or have an energy. What if you could take a tape or a recording of particular crop circle sounds, which is how my crop circle music came about, because I was synthesising crop circle shapes back into music to get sort of the musical form back out of them. And I thought, well, we've got the shape of the crop circle, we've got the sound of the music or whatever, and I think they're all appearing at sacred spots, whether it's ley lines or whatever. And indeed, because these ley lines are very ancient, it could be that the ancients detected some form of energy and thought that they'd based their sacred sites around certain areas in the landscape.
We don't know why those things are there. I mean, we can't understand how we get the inspiration to do the design that somebody else has thought of. And said, I predict this may happen. Maybe we're picking up a group consciousness of humanity. and that mathematicians are thinking about crop circles, and you know, people who are interested in music are thinking about crop circles. But I don't know maths and I don't know music, but we go out and do the designs that these people are thinking about.
We know from the work of subtle energy science that human mind can affect physical reality, and it's called the conditioned space. Human circle makers believe that if we go into a circle and we believe it to be so-called authentic and real, we will share our energy with the circle and meditate in it and pray and do our healing ceremonies in the circle, like we see every year. And that changes the energy of the circle and makes it magical.
We should be very careful when we make our conclusions about something that we didn't testify ourselves and we were not in the place to see how it was done, and then we are trying afterwards to find out how it was done.
And whether man-made or not, and I take your point, these are machines, these are geometries produced in the natural environment, which is taking on something else we didn't anticipate. It's taking on, it has an effect. I mean, I'm an electrical engineer myself, and I know that if you place a single plant like this, you've got air around it, the conductive quality of that is very different to when you place it in the horizontal, you remove the air around it, the capacitive value is changed, and it, with many other thousands in a particular contour, produces a localized field. So it has an effect which people can measure at the very low levels, and some people, very sensitive people, can't feel. We should take advantage of that.
There has to be harmony and balance. If there's no balance, say there's a very small element and then a very big element, I mean, things look a little bit out of balance. What you might do is you might flow things, and you might put big then small, and small then big, and big then small. So you're using balance and opposites, and you're using sort of like natural harmonies.
In a human being, there are many levels. So in some cases, also when we think about crop circles, it might be that the message is coming from us. Many clever, wise people think that the truth is inside us. We should understand that and be so sensitive that we can get that message.
Is the human doing that, or are they a vessel for information? Transparent, just like glass, with the light coming through, but they're not the source of the light. My feeling is that the circle makers are not necessarily people that make them, they're a channel for the energy.
Now the forces, whatever they are, if it's a spiritual force, a divine consciousness, aliens, future human beings, they should be able to manipulate the elements of the higher reality that is mostly unknown to us in our normal state of consciousness, where they also can see through our thoughts and our perceptions, our attitudes, and prepare their message, whether it's in the form of a crop circle or a synchronistic event, a light phenomenon, whatever, so that each piece fit together for this particular person.
As we say, man-made or real, it's not the right question. The question is, why do shapes, regardless of the original phenomena which made the simple circles 20 years ago, or the more complex patterns that I believe are made by humans, or through humans, well, what is it about the shape that creates the energy? And that's what we're really interested in. And we think there's a lot of interesting physics going on right now related to plasma physics, piezoelectronics, crystalline technology, magnetics, cymatics, and all different fields like that, related to what we call subtle energy science. It's very subtle energies, they're very hard to measure. But what we know from this research, especially the work of Dr. William Tiller from Stanford, is that shapes are the medium through which energy is transferred from etheric dimensions into the physical reality, especially sacred geometry.